Hello, my name is Mark Anthony Dubose Jr. I was born July 4th, 1986. Today I want to talk about a story in his book of the Bible that really when I read it, it can set me up on what's going on in my day in reality. So it's something that, once again, I've come to realize that this Bible is very, very interesting because the way that I would interpret a story in that time can help a lot of people, but not help a whole lot of other people. And then depending on another time and another way it's said from someone else, depending on the struggles that they're going through, it can mean something not completely different, but could just amplify it more. And that's what I'm going to say is the beauty of what goes on in this book with all these stories and how they work and how everything is expressed and said, and how some things you can in reality tell it wasn't put in there so that it could be an unlimitedness. Every story is written in such a way to just really put a whole lot of thought behind it and behind you to make you really think a little bit more. And it's like it misses little things here and there to just so that you can input the thing that you're looking for, that you really do need. And the story can go along with as if you're reading it, as if it's like, are you talking about me? You're talking about some people from like 100,000 years ago, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years ago. Are you talking to me though? And that's the fantastic part behind everything that I continuously keep reading and continuously keep doing with what I keep on evolving with learning more and more about this Bible. It's like, it's talking about me. It's talking to me. And then I start to realize it's talking to me, through me, for you, so that you can have a better understanding and be able to get yourself into a position to just get out there and get going for yourself with it and start to read these stories for what it is going to be able to help you with what's going on in your life. And the story I want to talk about today is when it comes down to Jacob and then his sons, and then his youngest son Joseph is the one that ends up that his brothers inspired to kill him. They want to get rid of him because they're just like, Jacob loves him more. He loves him the best. And in reality, the book does state that he did favor him more. He did do extra for him. And his brothers just were so jealous and so envious and so rageful because of that. And that's something that is just complicated because every time, and no matter what household you're in, if you're a single child, this story may not apply to what it is that you're looking for in reality. But anyone that's got more than one child in that household, there's stuff that goes on where you can see in some circumstances that it's like your mother, your father is like praising them more for something that you do and you've done, and they're not praising you, and it just goes all around where it can make you think and feel like, why you care more about them than you care about me? You care more about everybody else, all the other kids, but me, I'm just always forgotten. I'm just not around. I'm just meaningless. And then when you start to get that way, you start to get in this revengeful of, I want to get back at that kid because my brother, my sister I can't stand how my parents are treating them. Like they do everything wrong. They're destroying, they burn the house down. Like, oh, praise the Lord, my son burned the house down, good job. But if I would have burned the house down, I would never hear the end of it for the remainder of my life. And a lot of us, and I'm going to say pretty much all of us, are living in such ways like this. Even if you are a single child, things are still put upon you. That you got your neighbors, you got your relatives, you got everything else around. Where this is a story that's just absolutely fantastic because it's not that anybody has a better or a worse off a loving and of a respect from who's trying to take care of us. It's more of just the way that our mind wants to perceive it. Our mind wants to see it. And if our mind wants to see something, it's going to find it. And that's one thing that I will say is powerful about this Bible, because if your mind wants it, you can force and fight and finagle, make it happen. But that can only work for someone who's not really in tune with reading the whole thing and understanding the whole thing. And that works for most majority of people, because most majority of people are like, I can't read that. That's too much. So you can finesse whatever it is you want to finesse, as opposed to having the real understanding, the real information. And that's where it really comes down to this scenario. You could be so mad at your siblings on, I want to be so ruthless with them, but you don't actually know the whole story. You don't know everything that's going on. So maybe you need to slow down and take a step back to really start to figure out what's actually happening. And what's actually happening here is sometimes some people have to be put in a specific place to do a specific thing to make sure that everyone's going to be taken care of. And sometimes you have it in your own self thinking, I'm going to be that one that's going to be able to do it all. But there's something in you that still needs to be worked upon. There's something in you that still needs to just, you need to get better with. There's something in you. And when you finally be able to figure that something, then you're going to be able to be used to be able to do something great. But for now, hold on one second. Sorry, I had to handle some things right there. That right here is an exact scenario that just happening. It's like I'm in a specific location where not all the dogs can be, but one's there. And when one's there, the others are just like, I want to be there. I want to get there. Like, this isn't just even human beings. This comes down to animals and anything that cares for you and you care for it. It gets in its feelings of, I want to be the one to be able to do that. But yet you're not ready for it all the time. And that's where I can say this scenario right here. One says, I want to do this, and the other says, no. No, I'm telling them no, because you're not ready for that yet. You're not capable of doing that yet. But you have it in you, like, I want to be that one. And that's where God knows. He knows what's in your heart. And he knows all about you. And that's where it comes down to Joseph. God knew what was in his heart. He knew everything about him, and he knew everything that he was going to be able to do. Knowing that he wouldn't just forget and let go regardless of what happened to him. That he'll still help you and take care of you. And that's where we're going to talk about this story here in a second. Let me get this camera over here somehow. And it's just, it's really high up there today. We're just going to make this work. It starts in the book of Genesis is where this story starts. And the book of Genesis just, I know that a lot of people have a lot of, I don't think you really know what's in this book. I think a lot of people think the book of Genesis is just talking about the creation and how things started, and it does that, but it's only that for like 2 pages. And then it really starts to get into the story and the timeline of what's going on. Because there's still a whole other story before this story in the book of Genesis. I actually think there's 2 stories before this story. And things are happening very, very fast, fast-tracked in this book, but not fast-tracked in reality in this world. There's things that are moving, but we have to realize that this is such a small book in comparison to what's the whole world has been going on and going through. So sometimes when we read this, we're just like, wow, that just happened. But in reality, we don't 100% know exactly everything that was going on in between it. Where we have a timeline of how many years and how many this, but a lot of these people before this, before Abraham, were living for a very, very long time. Very, very long time. So we don't know all the little hidden secrets that were going on in between all of that thousands and thousands of years in reality. So we have to really keep that in mind when we're reading some things and realizing that a lot has happened already. And just being so in this, I'm starting the 32nd page of this book. And a lot has happened already. Like thousands of years has already happened. Thousands of years of things have gone down. The flood has already came, for instance, and a lot is going on. And this book of Genesis is not just in the beginning. It's the beginning, but it's telling us a lot about where we are right here, right now. And it starts off and it gets going. Things get moving. So in the book of Genesis, in the 37th chapter, I'm just going to read the first verse here. It says, Jacob lived in a land where his father had stayed in the land of Canaan. In the 3rd verse, now Israel, which is Jacob, something that I got to ask God and pray about is wondering, he likes to change people's names for some reason. He changed from Abram to Abraham and Sarai to Sarah to Jacob to Israel. And it almost can get you a little complicated, get a little confused when you're reading some of this right here, because sometimes it says Jacob and other times it says Israel. So it depends on who he's talking to and what's going on. But it's a very interesting thing that goes on, that God, why do you change some people's names? As if their name wasn't good enough that their parents gave them. It is interesting to me. It says, now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made an ordinate robe for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. And then in the 5th verse, it says, Joseph had a dream. Then he told it to his brothers, and they all hated him even more. And in the 8th verse, it says this, his brothers said to him, do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all the more because of this dream that he had. And then in the 10th verse, it says, when he told his father all this, as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, what is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come to bow down on the ground before you? And his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in his mind. So a lot's going on here because Joseph kept having these dreams. He kept having these dreams that are just like, something's going to happen to me. I don't know exactly what's going to happen to me, but something's going to happen that I'm going to have to be a ruler of some sort in some time and into the future. And not that I want to be some ruler over you, but that's just who I'm going to be. But this is right here where things get extremely complicated. That we have to stop and take a second and take a look at this. Because when you're in the mindset of hate and jealousy and anger and rage and just malice and just ruthlessness, you're thinking, if I was to be in power, what would people do? What would you do to people? How would you treat them? And when you're in a rage, you're just like, I'm going to this. You can be that dictator. But when you don't think that way, you're not coming at it like that. So when you hear that someone is going to be above you, you go to what your mind is, what you would do. And you're like, I'm not going to let nobody treat me like that. But it's okay for you to treat everybody else like that. That's something that we should really take good understanding with. Just because there's going to be somebody that's going to be in charge of you doesn't mean that they think like you. And especially in the case of here, God knows everyone's hearts, so he's putting specific people in place, knowing that if he would have put one of those brothers in charge and gave them the visions that this is where you're going to be, they would have already been planning and plotting how I'm going to spend my gold, where I'm going to make you live, what I'm going to force you to do, how I'm going to make you work, how I'm going to reject and deny you of this and deny you of that, where Joseph is just a blank slate. He's just, okay, well, I guess this is going to happen to me. And then it goes down to the 20th verse. It says, come now. This is where all the brothers get sticky with him. Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these canisters, and let's say that a ferocious animal devoured him, and we'll see what comes of his dreams. And then one of his brothers was like, what will we gain if we kill our brother? We can cover up his blood. Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay a hand on him. After all, he is our brother, for our flesh and blood. His brothers agreed. Then they gathered Joseph's robe and dipped it into a slaughtered goat's blood, and then they gave it to their father. So they decided, we're not going to kill him because that might be a little overboard. We're not going to kill him. But their intentions were for him to go somewhere where somebody else is going to do it for them. And this is many times that this scenario goes on in this Bible, where they don't want to do it themselves. They don't want to be the ones themselves to do the harm. But they'll put you in a position, in a situation, knowing that you are going to die over there. And that's not my fault. You know, I didn't do it, but yet you did it. And that's something that we should be very, very careful of what we're thinking about and what we're doing. Knowing that if you don't want to do it yourself, then don't do it. And if you can't do it yourself, then don't do it. But don't think that putting it off to someone else to harm them is acceptable, is tolerable. That's the same thing. You're still doing the same stuff. And that's something that all of them have to deal with. And all of them have had this in their heart their entire time, and they've never been able to let it go, based on their first introduction when they get to Egypt looking for food. But we'll get there in a half a second. In the 39th chapter, so he got sold. So Joseph got sold to those guys. Those guys sold him to the Egyptians, and then the Egyptians have him now. So now he's standing in front of the Pharaoh, and he's just like, I'm just a little boy standing out hanging here. I think he was like 17 or 18 years old. I think it was 17 when he got enslaved, and he's just there. And in 39th chapter of Genesis, in the second verse, it says the Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered. And he lived in a house with the Egyptian master. His master saw that the Lord was with him, and the Lord gave him success in everything that he did. Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. And the Pharaoh put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted his care in everything he owned. From the time he put him in charge of his household and all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. So this is something that is just very interesting, because this is something that I just know oh so well. There's some people on this planet, that they have the favor of God inside of them since birth. They have it because God already knows our hearts, they already know what we're about. And since the day we came out, there's some people that have it more than other people because he just knows. And that's where I'm going to say is something on the whole unfortunate circumstances of the world and how it works and what it is and the way things go. But some people have it and others don't. And it's not that everyone can't get it. It's a matter of being able to get away from the stuff from before, stuff from the past, stuff from something yesterday that I said is very, very powerful. That somebody before you has set you up for failure in reality. They have done some evil. They've been a part of evil. They've never come to the Lord. They've never been a part of it. They've rejected it. They pushed it away, and then bam, you're born. And you're born into that. It's very, very unfortunate. But God works in absolute mysterious ways. And for those people, you're in reality going to be the one that's going to have the most favor in the end. And that's the concept. I forget what chapter, what book that's in, but the first is last and the last is first. You'll be the last one that gets saved because of all the problems and all the backlash and you finally getting away from doing everything that everyone used to do. And you're going to be the first one running to God saying, hey, man, I'm here. And he's going to say, what's up? You my homie. You my homie. As opposed to the ones that had the favor at birth, you're going to be last. And that's a very interesting thing that I like that. And that's a pretty cool thing because no matter what you've done, no matter where you've gone, no matter what anything, when the day that you decide, I'm not doing this no more. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to follow what my parents follow. I don't want to follow what my grandparents follow. I don't want to follow what my friends follow. I don't want to do that no more. I want to go over here. And even knowing that all those people are going to reject you and they're going to just demolish you because of where you want to go, just like that, they're going to have hate, they're going to have jealousy, they're going to have rage, they're going to have all this over you saying, I want to go this way. And that's what all these brothers had, all this, where Joseph was like, no, I'm going this way. I'm going to go do this. And we have to, he's got it in him. And Joseph already had that favor of God inside of him. He was already there. He was already able to read his heart. And when people are like that, other people can see that. And when people see that, they want to do everything they can to stay close to that. And this is interesting because this Pharaoh, he's a very generous person, I'm going to say. Because he realizes, man, this guy's got favor. I want to put him close to me. In a way of, since he can help me, cool, that's awesome. Let's grow, let's go. As opposed to there's some people, like the next Pharaoh, for instance, that comes in that says, you know what? I'm gonna take all the blessings you have. I'm gonna take everything about you. And that's something that we are headed to in today's society, people. That instead of people just wanting to be next to someone who is blessed, someone who great things come to, someone who is able to get through the stickiness and just keep on going and keep on cruising, instead of you just saying, I just want to be close to you to get that. No, you have it in you that I want to take that from you. I want to strip that from you. I want to beat you down and just destroy you. But that's a story for a whole nother day because all these stories link up and have everything together, and it's an absolutely fantastic thing. But we go into the 41st chapter of Genesis, and we go over to the 28th verse. And this is where Pharaoh, so Joseph gets in a little bit of sticky situation because Pharaoh's wife sees him. He's like, this is a good looking boy. Come hang out with me. And Joseph is like, no. Pump the brakes. Pharaoh said, I can have everything except you. I can have everything. I'm in control and I can have rulership over everything except you, lady. So she does a little trickery, and this is hard for me because this is some stuff that I've had to deal with in my life. So she did some trickery and then blamed it upon him, saying, oh, he did this. And she just lied. And then he ended up in jail. And he ended up in jail and he did fantastic things. The jailer loved him. This dude's got the blessing of God on him. The dude was like, you could be the CEO of the jail. You good to go. You get the best food. You get everything. And then the Pharaoh ran into a situation because he kept having a weird dream. And the weird dream he was having, he was asking all his magicians and all his spiritists and all his witches and they couldn't tell it to him. They couldn't give it to him. But then he learned that someone in jail, Joseph, he knows about him. But, when you're the Pharaoh, things kind of just fast track and disappear on you. Because you're doing so much and you're so around that and especially he's going to be really mad at this guy knowing that he had it in him, the manipulated tactic of what some people do out here is making you think that you did something when you didn't do something. And so he heard that this guy in prison was able to tell some people's dreams. So he was like, bring this guy to me. I need him to tell me my dream because nobody could. And it said to Pharaoh, so in the 28th verse, in the 41st chapter, the Pharaoh, God has shown Pharaoh what he's about to do. 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Egypt, but 7 years of famine will follow. Then all abundance in Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will ravage the land. So the Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt. So he had to come in and tell him and get this dream going. He had a dream of 7 this and 7 that and 7 these and 7 that's and 7 cows and 7 ugly cows. And so Joseph was like, hey, man, I know what's about to happen to you. I know what's going down. And since he was able to tell him, because nobody else could tell him, He's like, man, this guy really must have the favor of God because he just knows everything that's about to happen, everything that's going on. He's so in tune with God that God is just working through this little boy. So he brings this, so he was in there 17, maybe 18, so he's probably like 20, 21 years old at this point. And so he's sitting there, and Pharaoh is just like, he's impressed. So he says, you back in charge, man. And in reality, you even more in charge now. Now you're going to be the man that's running all the books, that's going to be doing all the everything. So Joseph does some absolutely amazing things, and he gets himself hooked up. He runs it. He starts collecting so much grain that they stop logging it because we just have too much. We don't even know how much we have. We got too much. We ran out of books to write it on how much we have. He started collecting everything to make sure that they were going to be good to go. And they made sure at that same time that everyone was still good to go. But he started collecting, and he started keeping, and he started maintaining everything. And he did an absolutely fantastic job. And then what happens? The famine comes, just like he said it was going to happen. So things were looking good, things are great, and everything was good to go. Then the famine comes. And then in the 42nd chapter, verse of the, we're still in the same, we're still in the same chapter. It says that Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, and he said to his sons, why do you keep looking at each other? He continued that, I heard there's grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us so that we don't die. I think we switched chapters here now. Yep. So his brothers and his daddy are starting to struggle. It's all right, Shadow. We good. There's nowhere to run to. The gunshots are shooting. It's going to be fine. Come here, man. He don't like gunshots. It is what it is. But, so his daddy and his brothers are starving at this point because, they didn't prepare. And in reality, there's kind of no way to prepare for 7 years of famine and anything like that. But in reality, they got struck hard right away. So they didn't save, they didn't do anything, they didn't have any provision, they had nothing. And the day came that we don't have nothing, and now we still don't have nothing. So they're just like, man, we're double dosed of messed up right now. So right away, his daddy's saying to his brothers, go down to Egypt and buy some grain. We need it. So his brothers go down there and get the grain. So we move over into the 42nd chapter, the 6th verse. It says, now Joseph was the governor of the land, the person who sold grain to all its people. So when Joseph's brothers arrived, they bowed down to him with their faces on the ground. As soon as Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke to them harshly. Joseph gave orders to fill their bags of grain and put each man's silver back in his sack, as to give provisions for their journey. So something very interesting, because Joseph sees his brothers. They're coming there, they're begging, they're down. They're like, please, man, we need some food. We hungry. We hungry. We don't have no food. Our daddy out there, and he talked to them in a way of asking them a lot of questions. Where's your daddy? Where your brother? This your only brothers? What's going on with you? You came here to spy on me. You're trying to kill all of us. So he talks to them pretty gangster, because in reality, they sold him into slavery. So he came at them in a way of like, I'm not happy about that. But he didn't go too far. He had a compassion in him to just say, this is where it's going to go. And then when he sold them the grain, he gave them their money back, and he gave them extra grain, and he gave them their money back. He didn't even care about it. He didn't put no log in it. He just said, you know what, I'm giving this to you. But his brothers didn't know who he was. But he still had it in, Joseph still had it in him, that these guys, my brothers, left me to die. They sold me, and they had no idea what was going to happen to me, knowing that I was going to be in a position to die. And Joseph still had it in him to say, you know what, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help you out. So in the 43rd chapter of the 1st verse, now the famine is still severe in the land. So when they've eaten all the grain they bought from Egypt, their father said to them, go back and buy a little more. So they go back and they buy some more. But this time they had rules behind it. They had to bring the youngest brother. They didn't want to bring him at first, but Joseph wanted to see him. Joseph wanted to say hi to him, because that's, say, his brother from his same mother. The other brothers are brothers from another mother. I can see where the conflict could really start to happen when you really start to dig deep with a lot that goes on with this. That there's a lot of family issues going on here. And family issues have always been going on since Adam and Eve. And it's something that we should all just, once we know it and realize it, we can start to see it. And then we can start to figure out how to be able to get around it. I don't think I'll ever be able to get around a video without him chanting. I mean, he's literally just standing and staring right at me chanting. But they go back and they get some grain. And when they get this grain, in 44th chapter, first verse, they fill up his sacks with as much food as they can carry and put each man's silver back in it again. So he fills them extra again. He gives them abundance. And then he still, again, gives them their money back. Even though they came back with double the money because they're like, oh my goodness, this is going crazy. And so he still gave them their money back and sent them on their way. So they went on their way. And Joseph did something interesting to make sure that they can only go so far and to try to like get them in a sticky situation to test them in a way again, where he put some extra in his bags and then he sent them on their way. And then they realized they had a little too much. And then they ran into a situation where Joseph, in the 45th chapter, the first verse, then Joseph could no longer control himself before his attendants and cried out, have everyone leave my presence. So there was no one around Joseph, so that he made himself known to his brothers. And this is a very interesting thing, because what would his brothers have done in this situation? What would they have done? Where would they have gone? Would they have given him the food? Would they have just tried to kill him all right there, to even think of coming to even try to get any assistance from me? What do you think that they would have done? And that's where this is a very interesting story, because regardless of what they did to him, knowing that he could hear them talking about killing him while they locked him up and did what they did. He could hear that they were trying to do that to him. He could hear everything, all their plans and everything that they're planning on doing, because they literally put him in a jar and then sat down and had lunch. So he could hear and knew what his brothers thought of him, and he knew it the whole time, because they would always just have such negative stuff to say to him. But even through all that, he still gave them the food that they needed to survive. He still gave them their money back even. He said, your money is not welcome here. I'm going to give you what you need. That you don't need to bring anything. You just need to just show up and I'll give it to you. It's such an interesting thing. It's such a very interesting thing. And then it comes down to him saying, Daddy good? Is he all right? Bring him up over here. I'm gonna have Pharaoh. He gonna take care of us. He gonna take care of them. We gonna get them set up. Y'all gonna get set up. Bring all your wives. Bring your kids. Bring all your animals. Bring everything that you have. That's how amazing Joseph is. He says, bring everything. Bring them all. You know, I'm gonna make this work for you. And I've got such favor with Pharaoh that I'll be able to make sure that I can get y'all set up with the best of the best. So in the 46th chapter, Jacob gets scared, because he's like, hey, this is Pharaoh. You know, this isn't our land. This is someone else's land. This is someone else's place. And God had to have a one-on-one talk with him and says, I am God, the God of your father. He said, do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you a great nation there. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will surely bring you back out again. So God had to give Jacob a little reassurance of everything's going to be all right, and everything's going to be fine. And Jacob realized how his son's dream was real, and how the favor is really upon him, upon Jacob, because he had it from the beginning. He had it all along, and he had it from his dad, and he realized that he's going to continue to keep moving this forward. And the one that's moving this forward is the one that was probably least likely that he thought in reality. But it was the one that was able to do it, and it was the one that's able to make some things happen. And he gets scared, he gets nervous, because he's like, I don't know that land. I don't know anything about that. We're free here right now, but if we go over there, we're going to be underneath somebody. And this is where things get set up for God to be able to make his moves, to be able to do what he has to do, and to be able to show people how powerful he is and what he's all about in the future to come. And this is the start of being able to show that even though you put yourself in a situation, I'm going to be able to get you out of it. Even though you got stuck in a situation that even you didn't want, you didn't desire, you didn't care for, I'm going to get you out of it. And that's where Joseph, in the 42nd chapter, in the 11th verse, he goes to the Pharaoh. So Joseph settled his father and his brothers in Egypt and gave them the property in the best of the land, the district of, as Pharaoh directed. Joseph also provided his father and his brothers, all his father's household, with food according to the number of the children. And then we run into a situation where this is where we get stuck. This is where we get, he gonna bark a second. He gotta do what he gotta do. This is where we get in a situation where we really get enslaved, because it comes down to a matter of being able to stay alive. And we back. I'm gonna have to figure out how to be able to get a setup to make sure that I don't have any distractions. So I got a lot going on out here all the time that kind of makes me I gotta think about a whole lot, too much. And sometimes thinking about too much can get my brain a little scrambled. How many of y'all run into a situation like that? You're trying to stay focused, but you got everything else out there that just wants to try to get at you. Out here so far, like multiple times, I got the dogs barking. They never bark. I got this guy going off doing this. You don't ever do that. I got the donkey always yelling at me. They don't ever do that. And then I got the roosters that are just always sitting back there, always doing. They don't ever do that. And that's where I'm going to say right now, something fantastic. Is not fantastic, something eye-opening to me of realizing that there's some negative forces going out here as well as the positive forces. And every time that I'm out here doing what I'm doing, I got something that's just there. And it just doesn't want to let me go. And it's something that's trying to get my focus away. That's where I'm going to say God is powerful. Focus your mind upon him and stop paying attention to all of that. All of that is just background noise, and it's going to be there. It's going to be there until you decide to just let it go and realize that God's got you. He's going to take care of you. He's going to do everything for you. But we run into a scenario here where the famine is still on, and if the people are still needing some food. And this is how the people end up getting enslaved on their own accord. It's not like somebody forced them or stole them or took them or did anything to them. No, they said, we need some help. So it got to the point of needing some help, and they needed food. So we said, okay, bring your livestock. He sold his livestock for some food. And he was like, oh, okay, now we need more food. There's still more time going on here. So then the people decide we don't have anything else, but we got our land back home, and we got ourselves. So you could take the land, and you could take us, and use us and utilize us the way that we want to be and need to be used, so that we can continue to keep on eating. So then that's where they they lost it all. They lost everything that they were working on, that they had of their own, and they had to enslave themselves to be able to stay alive. And sometimes that's such a great sacrifice that people before us have done so that we can be here today. And it's something that we should always be giving thanks to, on the concept of what has happened before us and where we are here now. What the sacrifices people had to make. Not everything is so bad, doom and gloom, on the reason that we're struggling today. But some people had to do some tragic things for us to be able to be where we are. And we need to really have a humble ourselves to realize that that's what happened. That we didn't want to be enslaved, but we had to stay alive, because we didn't want to just die. So we had to do some things and make some choices that were going to be challenging. But then that's the beginning of the whole story of where God really starts to show how powerful he is. He hasn't really shown it yet. He's done a few things here and there, but he hasn't really shown who he is and what he's all about and how he's able to help us and what he's able to do for us until after this story. Because after the story, right there at the end of this, at the end of Genesis, Joseph passed away, all his brothers passed away, his dad passed away, everyone passed away. And then everyone from that generation passes away. They just get old, and they were living and doing what they were doing and having fun and working the land and taking care of themselves. And then a whole new people came in. And then the next part is, bam, right away when Moses starts. Because the people have forgotten in reality. We forget in a generation. I don't know why, but it's just what we do. And we forget. We go in to start doing different things, and in this time we're not we praising God. We know about him, but we don't know his laws. We don't know his commands. We don't know anything really about him. We just know that there's a God that's been here and he's done some things and he's shown some stuff, but we don't really know him yet. We don't really know exactly in reality what he's expecting from us, what his expectations are. So we're just doing what we're doing. And then that's where Moses comes to really show us what we're expected to and what we're required to do and what we're needed to do. And it's not for us to debate upon that. It's not for us to just have it in us to say, I don't agree with that one part of it, so I'm going to take that out. No, we got to do what we got to do to make sure that we can keep on moving forward on this planet. And then the main thing behind this is we need to make sure that we are all collectively on the same game plan and the same mission here. And not saying that, oh, I could take this out and put this and add this and change this and I don't agree with that, so I'm going to agree with this and oh, that's ancient biblical times, so that doesn't apply to us today. That's lies. That's 100% lies. And there's a lot of that going on today. That, oh, we don't do that anymore because that was what they did back in the days. No, that book is talking about us right here, right now, today, right this second. That story is a story that we all have in our families, in our households going on right now. We have siblings fighting with each other. We got parents fighting with each other. We got parents fighting with their siblings. We got parents that don't see the greatness in their children. And that's one thing where I'm going to say is kind of a fail with Jacob and his son. When his son came to him and said, hey man, I got a dream and God keeps giving me these visions. He keeps showing me that this is where I'm going to be. And he's just like, no, you're not going to amount to that, is in reality what his own father said to his son. And that is something that we should be doing our best to never ever look at our children and say anything like that and be about that. If our children come to us and say, I want to do this, we should be doing our best to make sure that we can give them the information to be able to get to that point. And sometimes some things that the kids want to do, we got to explain the whole picture here. You want to be a professional athlete, you're not going to show up once every 2 weeks and do some work and think that you're going to get there. We need to be realistic with our kids and what you got to do to be able to get where you want to be able to get to. And that's where a lot goes on in this book that just really brings down to who we are and what we are today and what we continuously keep on doing as a people. And we really just need to just listen and really pay attention, because if we don't, we're going to keep doing and being about the same old stuff that we used to do. And someone will say, oh, the old times are good, the old times are better. I mean, if you live in America and you're alive right now and you say that, I hear you, I understand you. We had more, we cared more about each other. We had better values. But at the same time, we had more wars. We had more tragic, we had more death. And that's kind of the reason why we kind of had things of peace and things of love, because of how much sacrifice we had to go through to be able to be in the, say, free state and the free country that we're in today right now. That yeah, 60, 70, 80 years ago, you were in the thick of it with being in the middle, literally, of a war on war. Where you saw like 100 of your people just get blown down, murdered, and blown up, and just went savage. So of course you're going to have times you're going to say, oh my goodness, please, we need God, we need God, we need God. Something happened that made a lot of people just have to want to believe in that. And then we get further and further and further away from, let's say, tragic like that. The further away we get from wanting to believe in God in any sort of way. We start to get into the situation where I don't need him. I don't care about him. Nothing that he can do today for me can be able to do nothing for me. That's what I'm going to say today, people, that I don't know why, but I hate saying this, but I just know that this is what's going to happen. There's going to be some tragic that's going to happen in this world, because that's the only way that God has been able to get the people to start to believe and start to understand him again, is to bring something to you to let you know you're not getting out of this by yourself. To pray to God to say, can you get me out of this? And God says, yes, I can get you out of this. I can get you through this. We can make this happen. But it's going to take something tragic for us to do that. That's just what we are as human beings, unfortunately. Why? I don't know. It's just what we've become. And in reality, it's what God is. But he didn't want us to be this way. Because in reality, I don't think that we can handle it. I don't think that we can, because it's the body that we get messed up with. Our minds, our spirit, and what we do, yeah, we can handle that, because that's what God is. But us as a body in here, we can't handle all of that. And that's what just damages us. It just destroys us. But we're going to have something happen, so that everyone has no choice but to just bow down. Just say, I need your help. I need your assistance. I need something from you. I need it. I don't want it anymore. For a little while, it was a want. It was just cool. It was like, ooh, I can pray to God and things can come to me. No, it's going to come to the time of seeing exactly what God is actually truly all about. What he's serious about. What he's really about. Not just some little magic genie where you can get a car or get a house or get a wife or get a husband or get some kids. And no longer. It's just that. And that's never what God's ever been about. But we look at him to be that way. And we look at him to be that way because of what it is that we've been programmed to see him as. It's just nothingness. It's meaningless. And that's something that, I don't know why, but I would hope that more and more, we good, Shadow, come here. And more people would just start to wake up and start to understand and start to see that God is an absolutely incredible being to be able to help us and guide us and be able to do for us. And it's something that we need to really just put our egos away, put our hatred away, and just start to really see exactly what God is all about. And with that, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for a very interesting day, to be able to have very interesting times, to be able to see very interesting stuff. And just another day of realizing and seeing that as much as I, for a while, was saying, There's no bad stuff out here. If I don't believe it, it's not there. There's no negative forces out there. If I don't believe it, then it's not there. I know for 100% fact that it's there. And just stuff that goes on when I stand here and make this video, I know for a fact that things like that are out here. Because if I was in the house watching a stupid video, I have zero issues. As soon as I get out of the house and start to do something meaningful, something of substantial value, all kinds of issues want to just start to pop up. It's trying to fight and force me to stop doing what it is that I'm doing. It's trying to fight and force me to just no, Mark. Don't even think about that. You gotta get back on doing the nothingness. But as soon as I try to do something meaningful, I'm just like I get tired, I get drained, I get beat down, I get exhausted. I have this issue, I get a headache, I got that problem, I got this going on over here, I got this broken down. Like last night I had so many things I had to do and just my watering system just broke down. Just broke. Who, what? How? What? Just strange. So I know for a fact that there's some stuff out here that is trying its best to just sabotage us, drain us, destroy us. But we got to do everything in our power to push past that, get past that, and realize that there's an incredible greater source. And the more that you can get closer and closer to the greater source of God, the more that all the other stuff is just going to start to disappear, and the more the favor you're going to have in your life. It's amazing to be alive, people. We're in the best of times right now, the greatest of times right now. We're able to do some very incredible things, and I would hope that more people would start to just understand that and believe that and know that. There's some crazy madness out here going on, but the closer you get to God, the more that crazy madness stays over there, and the more you could just dial in on yourself. Thank you.